Welcome back to the podcast. My name is Joseph Clough, and this is episode 860. And in today's episode, we're talking about how you can dream big even, as in big goals, big dreams, even if no one actually believes in you. This was another request, and if you do have requests on hypnosis sessions and so on, go to josephclough.info/ABC, and that means I can try to work them into an episode or a hypnosis session. But this was requested, and it's a really good topic because some people growing up can have so many people not believe in us or believe in them, but it causes us to not be able to believe in ourselves, and therefore it almost just turns off the creativity. It turns off the possibility. Even the idea of dreaming can be quite a challenge because we've been hypnotized to not be. For example, growing up, you may have been told that, look, it's not going to work out, or who are you to be able to make this happen? Do you think you're special or something? How's that even possible? Society doesn't expect that you can do those kind of things. Like, there's going to be many things, even to the point where they're just upfront saying, look, you're not good enough. You're not deserving. You're not capable. Who are you to be of value to make this a reality? We've been programmed, possibly from a very young age, or let me backtrack, as we know, the influences of our life, the hypnotists of our life, from society growing up, from the family members or those we perceive to be family in our little kind of tribe of people, and we are the sum of what we surround ourselves with, especially growing up. It is easy to see how we can then assume that belief or assume that mindset, which then narrows down that creativity to then limit ourselves to even thinking about that goal, because we will diminish it and negate it, any possibility or opportunity, if we've been that way for so long. Now, there are a few things as to what we can do about this, but what I will say is, over and over again in my life, not to a degree where, there were a couple of significant emotional events, but I think it's safe to say that most people have had these types of events which lead to a low self-value, and therefore how you meant to achieve something great when you think of yourself being so small, like just perception-wise. It doesn't make sense. The gap is too far. How can I want something so big when I see myself as being so small? We get the blinkers on, and as we have those blinkers on, we distort, we delete, we generalize these limiting beliefs, and after all of that, we just play small, stay in our comfort zone. But as I was saying, I've been through situations like that. I've said this before. One of my best friends, when I was getting into hypnosis, said, who are you to be able to, or something similar, like, how you expected to make money? How can you make a living out of hypnosis? If I assumed that to be true, then I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing right now. And in fact, my hypnosis, my main business, actually funds the development of all my free work. In other words, every episode, 860 episodes, is not really funded by external means as such. But my services, I put my money and my time into developing. Even if it's just time creating these episodes, it has to come from somewhere. And that is a choice, which I love making in many ways. But if I took that to be true, then not only would I have not become a hypnotherapist full-time, or then made the podcast, which has been downloaded 14 million times downloads wise, or a few million on YouTube on the views. Those things wouldn't happen if I listened to that and assumed it as gospel truth. It's just never going to be a reality if I assume that to be reality. And of course, as I was going through this, it was all new to me, right? But then if we take it into other examples, if you look about in your environment right now, If you look at all the things that you see, there's going to be a time where we thought as society, as a community, that it was impossible to do. Like, if you go back 60 years, 100 years, there's no way you'd ever think it was possible to be able to have a conversation with someone, or like through the internet, or to watch things from nothing. Like, how does that get to the phone? That wouldn't even be in their idea. So everything, pretty much everything, was perceived to be impossible, unable. And just think about how many doubters that person had if that was their goal and dream. In fact, there was a time when I think it was something like traveling over 30 miles an hour, like on a train, they thought like the human body would just kind of explode or something ridiculous. We have all these limiting beliefs and these limiting thoughts and beliefs about us or our goals and dreams. Now, to be able to be gentle on this, or to at least understand why people do these things, I was actually having a conversation today with a really good friend of mine, and we've got to go back to intention. It doesn't let people off the hook, but ask yourself, if you cannot make a goal or dream, or you just dream it but just don't think you can get it because what people have told you or what has been said to you, think about you not taking it as personal for a moment. Think about looking through their eyes. What are their perceptions? And I don't care if they're good or bad for a moment. And by bad, as in ill intent, as in good in a way that it's not really about you. It's kind of the same thing in a way, because it's about the person. Is their intention because they were told the same thing? Was it because they heard that in society? Or maybe they had a bad experience and they're just trying to relay that same story to you to maybe try to protect you. You see, my friend who said, how you expected to make money out of this, I don't think he was doing it in an ill way. It was just his perception. He thought number one, it was already so out of his mind because there's such an industry which is not that talked about. But I can understand maybe where he came from. I can understand his intentions. I can also understand, which I did at that moment, I recognized that he actually had his own limiting beliefs, a low self-confidence. And I knew that because we were really good friends. So I did not take it personally, because I understood it wasn't about me personally. It was just a projection. Whatever they perceived to be true about themselves, they projected onto me. That is how, and that's what we do all the time. Think about it. You've probably done something similar. If you don't believe you're good enough, you may have had that thought or idea for someone else who was going for their goals and dreams. It doesn't make you a bad person. It just means that you had that limiting viewpoint or that lens of the world, which you echoed out in thought or even verbally if you did speak to them. So it's just human nature. And the reason why I say we got to look at the intention there, because it does separate that it's not about you personally. Even if we go down the ill intent route. If it's ill intent, think about how they still came to that conclusion. That ill intent is maybe they're a bully, or maybe they were once bullied. Maybe once again, they're going through their own stuff. Even they're trying to pull people down because they feel as if they can't let anyone hire themselves because you've got to suffer the same kind of pain. Either way, it separates that it's not about me. It is about their perception, even if everyone has that perception. Because maybe there's a lot of dysfunction in the family. Maybe it was passed down through the generations. Maybe it's time for us to stop that passing down through the future generations of our family or heritage and all those types of things. But it is good to get a level of distance, because it's going to just take it less personally. Now, the other thing that you've got to do is well, you got a couple of things. And there's what I was talking about with my really good friend. Because there's two ways you can do this. Maybe like a blend of them ultimately. But you can use negative emotion as a driver. It's not my most ideal or optimism, but if you're being told all these things and it makes you angry, then use that as fuel. Like, it doesn't mean you have to go out there and hurt people. I'm just meaning like that energy to be able to go, no, I'm going to show them what is possible. You can use that energy because sometimes we need that energy to just move us in the beginning. So it's okay to utilize the emotions that you're feeling. Even if you're really sad that someone said that thing that you can't go for that goal, use that sadness as fuel to be able to make you at least move. And the reason why I don't like that as a complete goal or outcome, because I don't want you to have anger continually or continuously. We just utilize it as a stepping platform into the next phase of movement. Like I said, it's not my ideal, but you got to use what you've got. Like, if that's all you've got, use that as a fuel. Some people have to go through traumas to go, there's no way I'm ever going to experience that again. Some people who are very, very successful went through the most poverty or abuse and all of that stuff, and it caused them to go, that's it. There's no way I'm going to be like this anymore. So they used it as a fuel. And not the best, but it works. If that's all you got, use what you've got. The ideal one is to be able to look for the outcome. That's the positive. It's like the carrot and the stick ultimately. That's where we want to be heading. So if you use the fuel at first for negative, we want to be able to transition into the positive. Now, one of the questions I had about, which I actually get to in a second, I'll remember, don't worry. But if we do talk about the positive, you need to stack up your why. Why do you really want this? Even if you don't know exactly what you want, you do know what you don't want. I'm going to say that again. If you don't know what you want, the chances are you know what you don't want, which will be things like, well, I don't want to be in this situation. I don't want another bad relationship. Sometimes, in order to know where we want to go, the destination, we need to know the present location. So understand that this is what I'm experiencing, the dislike, and then allow that to be the first start. Because then you start to go, well, if I don't want that, what is the opposite of that? It could be happiness. It could be financial abundance. It could be, well, I'm not happy in my career, so what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to look for something which makes me happy in my career. So it's okay to look at the negative because it is the parameters we sometimes need. I've said it before, like if we go somewhere in a car, let's say we're going on a journey, yeah, you put in your destination, but in order for satellite navigation to figure that out, it has to know your GPS as to where you are right now to move you to that place, or to at least direct you to that place. So please do become aware. If you don't know what you want, be aware of what you don't want, because that is what is showing up. On top of that, going back into the why, is think about as many reasons as you can to either get that big dream or outcome, or the reasons why to get out of that what you don't want. It works both the same. It's still leverage. It's leverage not just to you consciously, but it's leverage to your unconscious mind as well. You see, if your unconscious mind knows why it needs to change, the big whys, it will have to then start to work for the solution, because your biggest why at an unconscious level is to protect you. If you can convey why it's not protecting you, and that this other place, even if it's the absence of the negative to get you there, or the positive in itself, if you build that into it, you're going to have your unconscious mind going, well, this is where I need to be. You're not there yet, but it'll give you that leverage to move forward. Now, going back to the thing I was going to remember, part of the question was that they were told, or so many people didn't believe in them, they lost the ability to dream for themselves. And it's really easy to understand because we've been hypnotized. One thing we've got to remember is that we were once a child, and there was a time when we felt like we could dream anything. Where it be just like playing with action figures or dolls, or wherever you thought like, well, I'm gonna be a doctor when I grow up, or I'm gonna be a policeman, or I'm gonna be a movie or an actor or a scientist or an astronaut. That involved a level of creation that is still fundamentally within you. It can be hard to find out, but if you do have a struggle in finding out, I want you to do it in two possible ways. Number one, think of someone who is not you. Because when you think of someone who is not you and think, well, what would they dream? The notion of doing so, of someone external, is that they're free of your limitations. And number two, if you're thinking of what they would dream of, in a way, it's kind of going to be your dream too, because you're thinking of what their dream could be like. And what this does, it changes our perspective, our perceptual position. You've got our looking through our own eyes, but then if we look through someone else's eyes and we don't know, that's a second position. Second position means a lack of emotion or a lack of limitation. And if you want to make it better, if you think of someone who was unlimited, or someone that you admire, or anyone like that who's like just supportive, then that's going to help. The other side of it is, what would you think that your child, if you have a child, or if you imagine if you did have one, what kind of goals and dreams, or in an unlimited way, would they go for? How would you nurture them? What would you want to tell them? Like, if you start to imagine what you would tell a child, whether it's yours or someone else's, whether you have one or not, what kind of things would you like to say to that child? And that is ultimately what you're doing here. And it's not like inner child work as such. I mean, we could go down like some crazy cool processes that I teach to be able to make that huge transformation. But even just on a subtle level, you are telling yourself what you needed to hear back then. And then you start to be the person that you needed back then. So that's another level just to consider. So we're going over lots of different things here. So there's a few things which will come back to my mind as well. It was only requested the other day, so I'll get a little bit clearer on it. What was the other thing I was really thinking of? It'll come back to me. So, here we go. It always comes back to me when you say so. If we have been told a long time by these people that we can't do something, it is of vital importance for you to have two levels of things. Number one, evidence, and number two, support. Evidence gives you acknowledgement that something is possible. Even if it's not your goal and dream, you've seen people achieve great things. That is the evidence-based things. Well, on the second part is, if we've been surrounded with people who are saying you can't do this, look for those who say that you can. Now, it's usually going to be from people who have been through something similar to you and overcame it. Like for me, if you don't believe you're good enough, I know I used to believe that. I overcame it. So if anything, I'd want you to be able to, work with me to be able to get you over it, because I know how to do it and I'm going to be your biggest supporter ever. So whatever the endeavor, whatever the goal and dream you know or you do not know, you need to have that environment. Sometimes we can't let go of our family. Sometimes you don't want to. But even if you don't want to, you want to be able to add to your new family or your new people that you surround yourself. Right at the beginning of the episode, I said you are the sum of those you surround yourself with. Some people say 5, but it doesn't matter. You are the sum of who you surround yourself. If you've been surrounding yourself, say through childhood and that kind of went into other people as you went older. It is now your time to be very decisive, to be very conscious, to be able to make a conscious effort in finding people, even if you don't know what you want, at the very least people who will show you how powerful you can be, not in a fake way. I want to be very clear on that. Is we don't want people to go, yeah, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it, when you need more ability or education. Maybe the possibility that you can do it, but not this false, everyone gets like a trophy or everyone can achieve any dream, because in reality, we need to do the work to be able to get to where we want to be. That's just the reality. It's not given to us. So find people who can nurture you, support you, and be real with you. You can be an encouraging realist, right? You don't want to set people up for a trap if you are that person. You don't want them to get hurt. So you want to be very real in being able to support someone else at the same time. So look for people who will nurture and protect your dream. And that goes into being protective of who you tell your dreams, or even that I don't want this anymore. Because if you say, I don't want this pain anymore, or I want this big goal and outcome, if you tell that dream, then someone might go, you can't have that dream. And the loop reinforces. So be protective who you tell your dreams about. Are they going to lift you up? Are they going to nurture you? Are they going to keep you accountable? And you must do the same thing, by the way. It's a cooperative flow of energy. All relationships should be that way. Cooperative flow of energy, lifting up, but with accountability and support, nurturing, and all those types of things. But please find people who will do that and where you can do that as well. As I said, if you don't even know what you want, you surround yourself with people who are having the type of life you want, or at least energetically the kind of person you would like to be around that person as much as you can. Model them, notice, ask questions, work with them, whatever it takes. Like if I wanted to know how to play a guitar, I want to find a really good guitarist to teach me how to do that. I'm not going to do it alone, because I'm going to probably just fail. It's like I'm going to give up. By the way, I know that for me personally because I tried once. But ultimately, I want to be able to find someone or a group of supporters that we work together. And that just equals out the balance there. If you can't let go of the negative people, I suggest ideally trying to do so. But if you don't decide so, you find as many people or just that one special person and just share that idea of a dream that you would like to share. Even if it's, I don't know what the dream is, but I'm willing to find out what it is. If that person around you says, well, I want to support you with that, I want to help you with that, you can do this, let's do this together, it's going to work. For example, in my main program, we have a group of people always supporting and always cheering each other. We acknowledge our celebrations and we support those celebrations because they are important. Why? Because we, as a human, want to be seen. We want to be heard. We want to be felt. We want to be acknowledged. All of those things. So if you don't have people who see you, hear you, feel you, and acknowledge you, it is time to start to move yourself, plant yourself in a place where people can see you and you can be seen, heard and felt and acknowledged and all those things. To feel validated, not in a fake, false way, but in a way that is, like I said, being a realist, accountability, but also the growth to shine. Now, of course, to end this episode up, because I'm going back to one of the main questions, they were told so much that they forgot how to kind of know how to dream big. The key here is to let go of that limiting belief. So if you could imagine you have like this gatekeeper. This gatekeeper is the belief itself. Like I said, everything you see around you was once probably thought not to be possible. There are so many examples of that. There's so many. Even like us growing up, we kind of, I never thought a mobile phone would ever exist or anything like that, unless you watch some kind of space TV show and all those kind of things. Like, we just didn't think it was a puzzle. We thought it was sci-fi at the very least, or we thought it'd be beyond our lifetimes. So knowing that gatekeeper is a limiting belief, what happens when you let go of that limiting belief? Well, the gates open. You give yourself permission to then dream something big. So you see, the limiting aspect is the belief itself. And I know this because I've worked with artists, and they can go through, whether it be like writers, like with writer's block and all those types of things, or whether it be musicians, and even I've worked with, say, athletes. They had the skill set, they had the creativity. It was present to see. Like, I worked with someone who got like a #1 in England in the musical charts, and they had all these kind of talents. They knew it logically, but they had the imposter syndrome, or they didn't believe they were good enough, or they had this anxiety, fears, and worries. Well, if you let go of that, they then get back to creativity. They start to see things. They go into this anticipation mode of excitement and creativity. So if you're very concerned about, I cannot dream big, well, if you let go of the limiting belief, which gatekeeps that limiting belief, or kind of weird, right? Limiting belief which reinforces. But if you start to let go of that unconscious limiting belief, suddenly it gives you permission to feel passionate about something. It gives you clarity. It is very hard to be able to dream big when you don't believe you're good enough, when you don't believe you're worthy, when you don't believe you're deserving, because that's when you play small, which I said near the beginning as well. You cannot have big dreams to be even created for some people if you see yourself as small, because you'll diminish them. But if you let go of that limiting belief of smallness or not being good enough, you then see your worth, and then you become the energetic match to any desire which comes from that. Through the fruition of a belief of knowing I'm good enough is going to connect me creativity, I can't even say it now, through creativity, through passion and purpose and all of these things. It just goes crazy cool. And I'll tell you why. When I first became a hypnotist, I didn't think I'd be doing a podcast. I didn't think they didn't even exist for a #1. But even when they first came out, I didn't think my podcast would get anywhere. Like, I didn't think it would get like the 14 million downloads or what have you, 150 to 200 downloads a month, sorry. I didn't think about that. But my passion and my purpose, which was fueling that, became the evidence of what was possible. If someone said, like, you're gonna get 14 million downloads, I'd probably go, I don't think so. That's a bit of a far reach. Even if I knew I was good enough, I just didn't think that was a reality. But once I started to implement the passion and the purpose, it created evidence of what is possible, and then that creates momentum. That allows us to go, okay, what next? I've got this evidence that I've got something, and those building blocks becomes that momentum. So I know this episode has touched lots of different things, but I think if you start to apply those things, the intentions of other people, what's mine, what's not mine, the finding other people, understanding about using the fuel to be able to get you out of a situation, so then you can be the example of what can be done, whether it be negative or positive energies. All of those things that we've discussed today, I think just applying one or all of those things, you're going to start to feel a shift in your neurology. It's time to do the work. Walking will get you there. Now, if you need help personally, not to play the guitar or anything like that, because that was one of my examples, I'm not a very good guitarist, but what I am very, very good at, having done this for 22 years, is to let go of the things like the imposter syndrome of not believing you're good enough, not believing you're worthy, you're deserving, or capable, the anxiety, the fears and worries. getting your life to where you would like to be in abundance, in emotional well-being and relationships and your health and all those things, you can go to josephclough.info/talk. When you go there, you fill out an application, and that gives us an idea of what we're going to have a little chat about. And on that one-to-one call that you'll have with us, you will show up and we'll treat it like a bit of a doctor kind of situation. We'll diagnose what's kind of going on, what's really happening, what's working, what's not working. And then once we kind of get that information, we will go, hey, we can solve this in the most undeniable way. And then we'll invite you to the program. There is an investment because look, there's fully customized to your needs. You get to work with us to get rid of this lifetime of an issue within 8 weeks. So only do that if you are ready to go all in. It's not for everybody, and I don't want everybody. I just want the most committed, decisive people to choose over their fears, to do what is right, to live a life of emotional freedom, and let life never be the same by going all in. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. On the next episode, we have got a coaching side of getting things done, and then in the next following episode we've got a hypnosis session about getting things done as well. So I hope you're enjoying all my free work and getting value from it, and this has been episode 860. Many thanks and goodbye.